outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. I'm Alan Crone, the CEO of the Crone Law Firm. And with me today is author Katherine Grace, who also happens to be my cousin. And we've both written books independently of one another, and they're both kind of employment law books, although hers is much more interesting to read than mine. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. Yes, our books are very distinctly different.
They're both set in the workplace, more or less, right? Or at least have elements.
Yes, they're set in the workplace, but mine is a steamy romance novel set in the workplace. So my characters should probably have read your book.
Or at least need to read it now, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
Well, tell me about the book. Tell me, I know just enough about it to be dangerous. You haven't sent me a copy, so I haven't read it. You need to send me a copy, and I'll send you a copy of mine.
Agree. So it's called Just a Fling, and it's going to be out on April 5th. And it involves, the main character is a woman who works at a law firm, and she has a chance encounter with a man who she knew from her past. They had had a steamy summer fling. They broke up because of certain reasons, and she walks into a conference room at work, and he's there, and he is doing business with a client of the firm. And so that's how they get thrown back together. And she, of course, gets put on the matter assigned to his file. So they're forced to work together, and love ensues.
Well, I'm glad love ensues. That's nice. You don't see, sometimes you don't see a lot of love in the workplace,
Especially at law firms.
Now, we should probably disclose that you worked at an employment law firm in Atlanta. You're a recovering lawyer.
Yes.
So how did your experiences as a lawyer affect or inspire this book?
So yes, so I graduated a while ago from law school and practiced for a few years, and then made the jump to do business development for a large law firm. So for the past 15 years, that's what I've been doing. But I've been in the legal industry around lawyers for 20 plus years. And so certainly, you write what you know. And in this book, the character, she doesn't love being a lawyer. She has coworkers who love it. And so that was my experience. I didn't necessarily love it for me. I have lots of friends that love it. It's not for everyone. But I love working with lawyers and lawyer adjacent projects because I do understand it. And I do understand, some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that lawyers face. So definitely, I feel like I know this character very well. Because she's looking for what her place is, if not at a high-end boutique New York law firm, which is where she is now. What can she do with her life with that legal degree?
Well, if she were a Grisham character, she would commit a bunch of ethical violations and ride off into the sunset with $5 or $6 million in cash.
Right. She'd know where the bank accounts were in the Caymans. Yes.
Yeah, she doesn't have that option, I take it.
No, there's no mafia intrigue in this one.
Well, that's been done. So yours is a new one. So what kind of employment law issues, just to make this as boring as possible, what kind of employment law issues do you see raised in your book?
Well, definitely. So she's put on his matter. So the situation is, he is a solar developer. They represent the bank financing his project. And so while he's not a client, she certainly, has a deep relationship with him. And there are issues around her boss doesn't exactly believe that he's the right developer for the job. So there are things that she knows about him that she's not disclosing to her boss. And certainly the fact that they have a relationship, they strike their relationship back up, she keeps that hidden from her boss. So I think her entanglement with him when there's a potential conflict with their client is certainly at issue.
Yeah, what strikes me about that is there are two duties there that, I think a lot of people come to face with, maybe not in such a dramatic way, but you have a duty of loyalty to your employer and while you're working for them. And so if I'm her boss, I would expect her to tell me if it's going to affect my business, hey, you need to be aware of this or be aware of that. And then as a lawyer, you have a duty to inform your client. If you have knowledge of a fact that they would consider material, you have a duty to disclose it to them. So
Yes.
She has quite a conundrum.
Yes, she does. And all this comes to head towards the end of the book, for sure.
Sure.
I think also she knows there's a question about, so he has a tragic past, which I won't go into, but he's is dealing with some mental health issues because of that. He has panic attacks and certain things that come to light. And she knows about this. And there's a question as to whether or not this affects his fitness as, someone to lead a very large project, and should their client, the bank, be investing in this project if there's a chance that, he's not mentally fit. And so, in a position like that, could the bank or her firm request proof of mental fitness from someone?
What, in light of the very important Me Too movement and, some other movements that in the workplace, not just about gender equity, but, relative financial power and that sort of thing, as a female lawyer and someone who's been around this kind of from all different sides, how do you think those things are affecting how women navigate the workforce in 2023?
I think that women are more on an equal playing field and feel more empowered to speak up, luckily. So, I think certainly when I started out, I was much more deferential. And part of this comes with age. So I'm not sure as if it's, Me Too movement and things like that, but definitely I feel like women are feeling more empowered and like they have more of a voice within the workplace, or at least I hope so. So, I think it may just depend on your position and your level, and like always, right? I mean, if you feel like you have more power, you're going to feel more empowered. So I don't know how employers really level that out between junior people and senior people.
Well, it occurs to me that if someone had written this book several years ago, and I'm not even going to say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know how long it would have been. I think the roles would have been reversed, right? I think the main character would have been a man who met a woman, had the same kind of thing, but I don't think the woman would have been at the level that this person, would have been a paralegal or a secretary,
right.
or something.
Yes.
Did you
in romance,
or what do you think about that?
Yes, definitely. In the genre of romance, that has actually been a huge issue. If you read books from the 70s and 80s, and I love romance genre history, and you don't want me to go on a tangent, but all those old books, it is true, the woman usually is in a subservient position of some sort, right? So she's a secretary, she's a paralegal, she's someone who is told what to do. And there's a big push in romance these days to make sure that people are on equal footing. And in fact, many times the woman has the more powerful position, which frankly is true in real life these days. So I think that romance is just reflecting what's happening in the world. I mean, I think more women than men are graduating from law school and medical school these days. So I just think it's a fact of reality. So yes, definitely having people on equal playing field as far as the power dynamics is more popular right now in romance.
Well, I'm going to take you up on your offer to talk a little bit about the history of romance novels. That's kind of fascinating to me. I've never really thought about it before, and I bet a lot of our listeners would be interested in it. I really don't know what question to ask other than tell me a little bit about your study of romance novels and the history and the evolution over time.
So, well, I'm just a huge fan. And I've read, since I was, probably too young to read. Don't tell my mother. So,
he's an avid watcher of this show. So you just did.
Yeah. Well, she wants me to send her a clip. So there you go.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that there's a, people sometimes roll their eyes when they talk about romance, that, they talk about the bodice rippers and it's just, salacious or whatever. But really, I think romance is a genre that is written primarily for women by women. And it deals with a lot of female issues, even though maybe you read some from the past, 70s, 80s, even 90s, and some of the things are antiquated or the dynamics are off, or, questionable things, problematic things happen. A lot of them still are trying to grapple with issues that women are dealing with, whether it's in relationships or in relationship with themselves or their friends. And so I really feel like it's a genre that is continuing to grow and evolve as we evolve. And now there's a huge push for, having books written in own voices. So, being very conscious of just what's going on in the world now and how is that reflected? How do you write about relationships and doing it in a modern way that is inclusive and fresh? So, yeah, it's been evolving and changing.
Do you think that there was I don't want to call it underground, but was the romance genre a kind of a place where women could explore some of these gender issues without a male voice intruding?
Yes, for sure. I think it's a place for, yes, women to kind of grapple with issues, fantasize about issues, see themselves reflected in different books. There's all different kinds of books within the romance genre. You can find pretty much anything you want to read about. If you want to read about more friendships or family, small towns, large cities, there's a setting for everyone and anyone. And I think that it does feel like it's a comfortable place for women to be exploring some of these issues.
Well, I've always enjoyed romantic comedies in movies, and I think that that's just a nice storyline to watch. I mean, Hallmark and whatnot, where you kind of got this formula, but it sounds like you have departed from those formulas in your book for a lot of the reasons we talked about, and it's set in kind of a unique environment, and it's set. It sounds like the drama, the conflict, is set against a financing deal, which again I think is a unique setting for conflict.
So I was inspired because I used to support our renewable energy practice at my old firm, and so. I was trying to think of a way. The male character is British, she's American. I wanted them in an international setting. So I was trying to think, okay, how can I get these people together in Spain or, wherever they go? And doing an international deal of this sort seemed like the right way to throw them together. And the book is also, so I wrote the bulk of the book during the pandemic. So I had to write it from a post-pandemic perspective. So talking about, remote work and the fact that they could be transatlantic and still have a relationship because we do have all of this technology, right? So trying to make it as realistic as possible, yet with still, the romance and the fantasy of having, this beautiful relationship.
Well, how do you think in 2023, what do you think of the advisability of a office romance? And let's assume for a moment that outwardly there's no pressure, that it's not an unequal situation. Although people could debate that, whether or not that's really possible in an employment situation. How advisable do you think it is in 2023 to go down that path?
Probably not. I mean, I think that in this case, this is a one-off deal that this guy's doing, and she ends up, well, spoiler alert, she ends up finding a different path.
Yeah.
So, their future, they're not working together every day. I do think that's complicated and ripe for issues. One of my favorite romance books is called The Hating Game, about two people in the workplace who think that they hate each other, but they fall in love. And at the end of it, one of them has to leave because it's really difficult to maintain a relationship like that when you're working with someone. So caution.
Yeah. I have known people that where they lived happily ever after. I have a fellow that used to work as an associate with me, and he and another associate fell in love, got married, and they started their own law firm, and everything is, as far as I can tell, everything is great. But the bigger the organization, I think maybe the bigger the challenges with that. And I don't know, as I often say, the heart wants what the heart wants, but it is very messy and very complicated. Because you've got things coming at you from all angles.
Well, and certainly working at a large law firm, there were lots of associates who met. I mean, that's where you spend the bulk of your time. And if you're single and you're with a bunch of other people who are single, it's natural to create relationships. And, so I don't think that it's something that should be forbidden or it's necessarily wrong. It's just difficult. So I think it just depends on your situation. If you have people and maybe they're in two different practices or two different departments and they don't really have to work together. But, at the same time, we also have friends. We have good friends that own a small business together and they run it together and they're perfectly happy. So it totally depends on, I think, the situation and what the positions are.
Yeah. And what the big complication obviously is when the relationship ends, but the employment doesn't, or you've got one person who's into it and one person who's not. And if you met at a bar or you met at Sunday school or any place other than the workplace, that may be a problem, but it's not a huge problem. But in the workplace, it's a huge problem because now not only do you have this relationship, but you have the company that has an interest in it as well. So I'd just say, you gotta be very, very careful as you enter into those kind of relationships.
Agree, for sure.
And so anyway, well, Katherine, as always, I've enjoyed talking with you. The book is It's a Fling.
Just a Fling.
Just a Fling.
Just a Fling, and you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple Books. I think eventually it's going to be in Walmart and Target, but I'm not sure when. But it comes out April 5th.
All right, April 5th. And you've got a book signing here in Memphis, April 7th?
April 11th, Tuesday, April 11th.
April 11th. April 11th at Novel. You can also go on to Novel's website probably and buy it there. A little plug for the hometown team. And of course, I've got a book signing on the 1st of April, which probably will happen before this comes out, but we'll get yours up before the 11th. And man, who would have known that one family would have two best-selling authors in it, and I always say, your book and my book are on Amazon, along with Charles Dickens and Ernest Hemingway and all kinds of great. So we're in that company.
Yep, exactly. Well, good luck to you as well.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. If you've enjoyed this, please share us on social media. Give us a 5-star review. Make Katherine look good by giving her the most 5-star reviews on our podcast. Also, email this to someone if you enjoy it. In other words, just get it out there, get it into the universe. Hopefully, someone may be an aspiring author and see this and say, if those two characters can do this, I can do it. And I hope anyone who's got a book in them can get it out, because that is a great accomplishment, a great feeling when you can do that. Katherine is going to go write some more romance novels, and I'm going to go get some justice. Thank you all very much.